All right, today we're going to look at creating a character in the Shadowrun RPG. But this is the first edition of Shadowrun from 1989. I remember being so excited when I got this book. It was my first exposure to like a cyberpunk kind of world, and it was just so exciting to kind of dive into this fiction, this crazy world of Shadowrun. Actually playing the game and mechanics wise, it's difficult, challenging, maybe a bit of a mess, honestly. I've never been able to justify getting an updated edition, but I get the sense they haven't improved a lot of that. But it's still a cool world, and so we're going to create a character, although in Shadowrun First Edition it's really more like selecting a character. So I'll take you through that and some of the associated mechanics. If you don't know anything about Shadowrun, the easiest sort of quick phrase to explain it is cyberpunk combined with high fantasy. A lot of you are probably more familiar with the game Cyberpunk. William Gibson's world, he really kind of coined that term and envisioned the space of mega corporations and hacking into a worldwide computer network, the Matrix. Before the internet was really a thing. So Shadowrun really takes that and combines it with high fantasy, so there are orcs and trolls and elves and a reawakening of magic. The year is 2050. The blending of technology and human flesh began in the late 20th century. Interfacing the human mind with computers was just the first step. Implants that jack up reflexes and cybernetic replacements followed quickly. Then came the awakening, a 5,000-year lull in the flow of mystical energies subsided, and magic returned to the world. Elves, dwarfs, and trolls assumed their true form, throwing off their human guise. So yeah, because of the inclusion of fantasy elements, I often hear people say that Shadowrun is a kind of a more happier version of Cyberpunk. I don't know, I guess maybe it's sort of played in a more light way, maybe leaning a little bit more towards like campy a little bit versus Cyberpunk, which is pretty gritty. But if you read the history that they lay out for how this world came to be, it is dark, very dark, like the stuff that's happening in our world today, dark. Corporations grabbing more and more power over the individual, massive wealth inequality, pandemics sweeping the globe, tensions between Europe and Russia leading to war, people focusing on othering and hatred, leading to violence, small political factions with single ideas, trying to force that on the rest of the world. Yeah, it's pretty dark, but there's, it's still a fantasy. One interesting thing is that Native Americans play a prominent role in this world. I think as part of the spiritual awakening in the world, they're connected to that. They take back power and territory, which is pretty cool to see that inclusion. Of course, it being a product of its time, it's pretty tropey. So we can appreciate things were what they were, but we'll lean away from that a bit. I assume they probably address that a bit in the updates, but I don't know. But yeah, we're going to look at character creation. Basically, when people hit puberty, they have this chance of turning into dwarves, elves, trolls, and orcs, as if puberty wasn't challenging enough. It is a D6 system, so it uses D6 die for all of its mechanics. I remember when I got this as a younger person, that was kind of a turnoff, because part of the whole magic and appeal of role-playing games with those unusual multi-sided dice and wondering what those were for and how to use them brought something really different than other games. But also I just feel like it has a lot of challenging mechanics, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Like most RPGs, you have a set of attributes, like strength, mental attributes, charisma, stuff like that. And you have a set of skills. You have weapons, because there is magic. You might play a magic user and have spells. And because it's cyberpunk, there's cyberware, things that help you jack into the matrix or give other benefits. That set of rules is nets. Like your cyber deck, potentially some other stuff. So, yeah, cyberpunk can be challenging because we invented a lot of the stuff that it talks about, and so it can feel archaic in some ways, but a lot of the core concepts are really close to our world. So the thing is, when you go to create a character, you really choose from a pre-defined archetype. There are some ways to build out a character, basically give you options that you can buy into, sort of choosing what areas you want to prioritize. That's kind of interesting. It's in a way, a point-buy system, like a lot of other RPGs. Maybe someday we'll do that, but I kind of just wanted to go back and make a character. It's been a long time since I've done this. So let's take a look. This guy is the burned out mage. One of the things that's challenging about the system is anytime you use magic, you have a chance to fatigue and harm yourself. So it's pretty destructive, kind of difficult to work with a system like that. You're kind of always on the downhill. But this guy's been feeling the pain, and switching over to more technological solutions. You have a Decker, breaks into the matrix to steal data. Actually, that's worth talking a little bit about the overall vibe and what is Shadowrun. As a party, a group playing the game, you generally play Shadowrunners, which are freelancers or mercenaries, hired to do jobs, criminals often, kind of exploring the cracks in the system, trying to dodge the corporation and police and rival factions. So a typical adventure would have you going on a Shadowrun where you get hired to do some job and you might need different skill sets, whether it's breaking into computers or some muscle in case you're running into fights. So when we look at attributes, right, they have a number here, same with skills. And in Shadowrun, the core mechanic has you rolling 6-sided dice, and if you have to make, say, a corporate etiquette roll here or a stealth roll, and I have a 4 in those categories, I would roll 4 6-sided die. If you roll a 6, you can keep rolling that die and adding up the result. And with each die that you roll, you're trying to beat a target number. So the higher the target number, the more challenging the task. You can have target numbers above 6. That's where those rerolls come in. And then based on the number of successes you get, you can do better or worse in what you're trying to do. So I find systems like that can be pretty challenging because you're always having to respond to the degree of success. I think sometimes it works okay and sometimes it's pretty challenging. Then here, when you get into combat, let's see if we can pull that up, right? You end up with this like huge set of rolls that you have to go through, right? Identify your target number, apply target modifiers, make your success roll, count the successes. Based on that, it can affect the damage that you do for your weapon. So you calculate that damage. Then the target can reduce that damage with things like armor, and finally they receive it. So it ends up being super crunchy, really pretty challenging to run. It was difficult to explain when I tried it when I was younger, so don't ever really play this system, but we're doing it because it's interesting to me, sort of historically and from a world perspective. Another interesting archetype, the former wage mage. So corporation hired a magic user to do work for them and getting a burn down on that. Gang member, mercenary, pretty common in a brutal corporate dystopia where corporations really supplant nations in terms of their power and organization in the world. Orc, mercenary, rigger, rocker, shaman. That's where we can see they're leaning into those tropes. The street mage, street samurai, kind of a key archetype. Lots of implants of technology to make them a super strong fighter. Street shaman, tribesman. All right, so they all have kind of some intro text, like the former wage mages. You would do well to withdraw your questions as to why I left my former employ. I will not satisfy your curiosity. Ask my old boss if you want to know. But let us not sour a mutually profitable arrangement over such trivia. All my refusal to speak of the past may seem inconvenient, and perhaps a trifle disconcerting. I assure you that I bring no tale behind me. I am a free agent, and am quite capable of keeping any threads from my past from tangling your schemes further. We are all aware of the state of the world and the changes that are the legacy of our grandfather's time. I assume that your concerns touch on, at least in part, some of these changes. You need a competent mage, well versed in the fine points of magic. Tell me your problem. Once I know what it is, I can begin to solve it. Alright, so we have the former company man, Elvin Decker, detective. There's some real Blade Runner vibes there. But I'm liking the burnt out mage. I'm feeling those vibes. On the decline, turning to technology to get by. So in terms of character creation, right, we're basically going to take this template wholesale. So we have attributes, skills, he has some cyberware. You have contacts. If you do the full creation, you can buy these with some of your resources. They're people you can go to get information and help on the street. Some gear, and a selection of spells. So let's go ahead and start filling out my sheet here. Someone on Reddit provided this printable character sheet, and I forget who it was, otherwise I'd give them a shout out, but thank you so much. Alright, so he's a human. Karma is the equivalent of experience, so none yet. And the archetype will be burned out. Mage. Lifestyle is actually the one thing that we roll on. Going with male for my sex. Alright, so for skills. Actually, let's start with attributes. Kind of your core physical properties. So body of 3, quickness 2, and 3 in parentheses, thanks to the cybernetic enhancements. Strength of 3, 4, thanks to the muscle replacement cyberware that he has. Charisma 1, yeah, he's not so appealing with his mindset and kind of the effect of a hard life. Intelligence 4, willpower 4, essence 1.4, magic 1, and reaction 3, again enhanced by cyberware to 5. Allergies is an interesting one. If you are metahuman, dwarf, elf, the game has you take on an allergy as a consequence of that. It's an odd choice. I think it's a little bit of a balancing choice since they get some bonuses, but I don't really like that they're forced into that. It's kind of weird. Alright, but in terms of skills, conjuring, rating of 4, etiquette, corp is 2. He's been in that world a bit. And also has some street etiquette, also 2. Despite being a magic user, switched over to using firearms as he's felt the toll of magic, relying more on the physical world. Magical Theory 4, Sorcery 4, Stealth 2, Unarmed Combat is a 2. Okay. Alright, and like I said, we've got some cyberware. We've got cyber eyes with thermal imaging. No rating there. Wired reflexes. Rating of 1. Muscle replacement. Can't wait for this. 1. Skill wires. 4. A smart gun link. Open combat. And he has a skill soft. It's like an implantable chip in your brain for his Fischetti pistol. And that's a 4. Alright. So let's take a look at the gear. So we have a weapons field. He has a coat. He has a contract for medical care. And he has one weapon, which is the Fischetti pistol. With smart gun adapter. And we can fill in some of that info later if we choose. Alright, he's got a good set of spells here. Analyze device. The max force. Basically with spells, you can like have a max, but you can choose to use less because that puts you less at risk of damaging yourself from using magic. So it's kind of tricky. Analyze truth. Armor. Probably necessary in this world. Clairvoyance. 5. Heal moderate wounds. 5. Hibernate. 4. Invisibility. 4. Mana bolt. 5. We're going to shoot right off the chart here. Mind probe. Some serious Vulcan action going there. 5. And then we'll kind of just sneak some in here. Sleep for 5. And telekinesis. Let's spell this properly. And that also has 5. So you can see that there isn't a lot that we are making choices about, and by that I mean almost 0. So let's come over here and get these finished out. So the character has dice pools, and there's some different areas, and these are derived from some of their attributes. And these are basically extra dice that you can deploy in certain scenarios. Like you can use your magic pool to help with spells or to help protect against the effects of spells if you hold some of those back. So let's fill these out. Astral pool is equal to the sum of the character's magic and intelligence ratings So that's 1, and 4, that's 5, plus sorcery skill, right, which is 4. So he has 9. And it's only relevant for magicians in the astral space. All right, defense pool is armed or unarmed combat skill, as you choose. I'm going to go with 2 for unarmed combat. And so this is for counterattacking in melee combat. So he ends up with 2. Dodge pool is equal to quickness, which we have 3 as long as that we are enhanced. Why don't I make a note of that just in case something happens to his implants? Okay. All right. And then the magic pool, it's sorcery skill or spellcasting concentration, right? So we just have sorcery. So you have skills and they're like deeper concentrations. There's like this really amazing skill tree if you need to use different skills, and you can follow this circuit diagram to find the one that you should use if you don't happen to have that skill. So it's really easy. You just flow back until the next applicable entry point for something that you do have. So yeah, this is the crazy town type stuff. So anyway, our magic pool is going to be equal to our sorcery of 4. All right. Now, we do have one roll to make, and that is for money. And we roll 3d6 times 1,000. All right, so this is a 6. It's a G.I. Joe die. 4 and 4. So we have 14,000. Right, that will be our starting money. Could buy more gear if I wanted to. And that puts us into a lower class lifestyle. And this is more used between Shadowruns or whatever. Okay, so a couple things to hit here. We don't have a computer skill, so we don't have a hacking pool or hacking into computer systems using the cyber deck, that kind of thing. So we don't worry about that. Let's come back to other gear and make sure we got that marked down. So we have our lined coat. We have our dock wagon contract, gold tier. We got our pistol already. We have 1 trauma patch. It's number 5. And then I have a spell focus. That can help me with specific spells that I have. An extra point. And for that, I kind of want to lean into the like telekinesis vibes of this guy that he's in people's minds. So let's do mind probe and telekinesis for those. So that's kind of where he can max out. Doesn't have a vehicle. Character drawing. Well, this is where you may offer up some of those Bob Ross relaxation vibes, but you see that I do not have the art talent. So let's do my guy here. I'm gonna lean into his appearance. He has cyber eyes. Mark that there. Oh, dig the ponytail. We're gonna go rock the buzz cut here. Got my cool magic user jacket on. Yeah, like a cool magician's belt buckle here, something like that. Yeah. I guess I need arms. Yeah, I mean, I think that really that's my vision for my character here. Yeah, maybe a moon kind of amulet thing on the neck there. Oh yeah. Okay, that's money. Don't even need the book here. Get my contacts. Bartender. Mr. Johnson. It's like a corporate contact you can go to. Street dock, super necessary. And a talismonger. Hook me up with trinkets for my magic ways. Alright, cool. So, one thing we haven't done here, we're basically in good shape for having created our character. I need a name. I want something with some heat on the street. About Robert Sizzle. And that could be his street name, but it's like magic vibes. I'll go with Smoke Show. Okay. Alright, and that is my Shadowrun character, the burned out mage, Robert Sizzle. Alright, well, hope you enjoyed this look at an old version of Shadowrun character creation, and I'll see you